Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. So, I'm redoing this video. I had started off and I was looking for an article and I couldn't find it. So, I found the article and I wanted to show, like, basically, a lot of people know about this whole thing with Nicholas Cruz and the shooting that happened in Florida and Parkland. Um, so, I had pulled up an article. I had did a video previous before about Nicholas Cruz. There's been debating back and forth about this kid's nationality, his name, and whether he's white, whether he's Hispanic. And, it's been said that he's Jewish and that he was adopted and that he had a history, even previous to this incident, of killing 17 people and injuring a half a dozen, that he had showed signs. And a lot of the people who were close to him, that were close to this kid, like adopted parents, sort of, are backing away from him, saying that they didn't know that he was like this. And I believe the reason why they're saying it is because they don't want to be affiliated with him because of the horrible thing that he just committed. And there's also even a militia group that at first want to attach themselves to this kid, because then the FBI would start looking at their organization and, how did this play a part in this kid being able to have, a gun, and this whole issue behind gun violence, and putting stricter laws on guns, and all this. They don't want to be attached to all of that, because then that would impede their Second Amendment right. So the article, I've read this article before previously. It talked about Nicholas Cruz and how he was expelled from school, how he was a loner, and that other kids saw him as a loner. So the title, it was in the Times, and the article, it says what to know about alleged Florida school shooter Nicholas Cruz. And the reason I used white privilege is killing white people. I know some white people will be offended when they see that, but if you're not a person that is in doubt that this exists for some individuals, that they use this as a weapon of privilege to be able to exert freedoms that other people who are of color, people that are in the minority groups, are not readily able to access, um, and use, like purchasing guns, being able to walk in places with guns and not being checked, um, posting videos of threats, posting harm to other people, and nobody does anything or says anything until once the damage is done. These are certain freedoms, which are sick freedoms, of course, freedoms that are left touched, because the people who are perpetuating these incidences, or who are carrying out these incidences, happen to be white. And so the reason why this title is saying this is because, is it possible that white people may not be viewed the same way as black people, or viewed the same way as people of color, when they go into certain public places, or when they're when they're looking for a person that is criminal, or person of interest that is involved in criminal activity? Would they look more to minorities rather than the white person? And so with this kid, having all these incidences occur, all these signs, these telltale signs about him before this hard act has occurred, um, was this a case of him having white privilege, or him looking the part and not being checked or monitored closely as they do black people? you know, if you read about some of the articles and some of the incidences with black people who have in the past have maybe even uttered something such as a threat, how they, without haste, FBI, police, law enforcement, hone in on it quickly. But when it's someone that isn't of color, that person is not really checked or taken seriously in the beginning. It's, let's wait and see. It's just it's just a young kid. He's just, getting a thrill. He's not going to do anything. He's not of any harm. And then all of a sudden, people get killed in a mass shooting. And you find all these things, all these signs that pointed out that this kid had the capability of committing these crimes at some point. It was going to happen. It was bound to happen. And so, when you hear these stories, like even going as far back during the era where it was nothing but serial killers like Charles Manson, Ted Bundy, you had Jeffrey Dahmer, people who, there were things that were signs that were leading up to this is a cult. It sounds dangerous. It sounds like they're planning something. But, they put out, messages and things like that, and nobody says anything until the damage is done. And, there were, if you go back into the history of these individuals, you find out there were a lot of breadcrumb trails left behind to point to you that this is what the end result's going to be with this individual. But he's left untouched or left unchecked because he happens to be white. And so this is the kind of stuff that happens. So what to know about alleged Florida shooter Nikolas Cruz? What should we know? We know, most people know now, 17 people were killed. And he injured more than half a dozen at the former high school in Parkland, Florida. He was described by his former classmates as a loner with a temper. And so here it even goes down to talk about how he owned his own AR-15 rifle. There was a debate with Don Lemon and another political figure on CNN talking about the purchases of guns and the age limits, and that he actually purchases gun under the law, under the guise of the law. He purchased his equipment, his ammunition, and he didn't have a history of violence. And by him being young, of course, he hadn't acted out on his true feelings. This is now how he acts out. This is what he was harboring. And that there were several media posts, on his, I don't know if the kid had Instagram or what have you, but he had Facebook, Instagram, one of those. And he posted himself with guns. He posted himself threatening to kill people at his school. He even posted the comment that he was going to be a professional shooter. And so nobody said anything. And then when people reported him, it was ignored, basically. It was heard, but it wasn't taken serious, rather. And so I wonder how long would it have been, if had it been a black kid that was doing this. I don't think that it would have took them long to apprehend the kid. And so that's the reason why, and that's my personal opinion, that's the reason why I title it the way I did. And some people will refute. They will throw up all these other black people who are clearly in the sunken place, claiming that there's no such thing as white privilege. And see, some of these people that you're putting up there as black people who are saying there's no such thing as white privilege, they are getting a feel good by the likes and the check marks you leave them, because they either have a white boyfriend or they live around a bunch of white people and they've never had any incidences right out happen to them right away, or they're drugged up on something. They're in total sunkenness, the sunkenest place that you can think of. So naturally, they're going to say things to scratch the backs and the butts of white folks to appease to their liking, because they want a bunch of likes. They want a bunch of people. They're the step-it fetchits. They want a bunch of people to feel like, oh, you see, there's a black person who knows that there's no white privilege. That's bullshit. There is white privilege. There's privileges of all kinds. Okay, so I know I didn't add that in here, but there's privileges of all kinds. Trust me. And there is a such thing as white privilege. So don't give me that bullshit about there's no white privilege. There is white privilege. This kid acted on his white privileges. He's not Latino. He's not Mexican. No, he's not. He didn't like Mexicans. He didn't like gay people. He didn't like blacks. And he Turns up he was Jewish. He's Jewish. And so, you know, all this talk about he's this and he's that. I know some people who are black and they look white to white people that are dumb, but they're black. Everything on this woman and her kid says black. I see it, but she's too stupid with all this college education. She's too stupid to see it. She thinks because the lady is real light skinned and has blondish looking hair that she's a white woman. This lady is not white. And I'm laughing. And the lady's telling her that she's making her think. They put on the little boy's, his mother had it on his little form that he's white. He's not white. That's a benefit. That's a privilege. See, that's how they act on the white privilege. So if dumb white people can't see that there are some black folks that are very light complected that can pass for white, they're just using that privilege because, see, that privilege helps them get better housing, maybe get a relationship with somebody that another white, a real white person who doesn't know the difference between that this lady is not really white. She's black, but she's making you think that she's white. But she's not white. And I've seen this. There's stories, if you look back, stories of people who they pretend to be white because they can look like that. They got that feature. But dumb white people can't see that these people aren't white. And so they use that as a privilege. That right there tell you that the privilege is real. There are stories. You can look them up. Stories of people for years didn't tell their children, oh, by the way, your grandpa, he's black. They think everybody in their family's white. There's no black people there. None. And here I'm looking at this lady and looking at this kid, how misinformed this kid's going to be when he grows up. If he starts digging in his family tree and he finds a couple of dark-skinned folks falling out of it, he's going to be devastated. He's going to say, well, Mom, how come you didn't tell me this? All these years, you lied. We have black people on our film, so a part of me is black. We just look white. And his mind will be all screwed up. And see, there's a lot of ignorance out there. And so, and here's the thing, there is a white privilege. And there's a black woman on here spouting all this BS about there's no white privilege. And she looked like she's zoned out of her skull. She's got dreads and everything. I've seen her. I forget the broad's name, but she's got a post on here. There's no white. She lives in a trailer around nothing but white folks. She's probably getting screwed. Her boyfriend's probably white. She gets screwed by white folks. In a whole lot of ways, she's getting screwed by white folks. But anyway, it's just, you don't understand people. We know what's going on. So here, I also saw something in an article, and it was in the Time, and it was saying how Christian slaveholders used the Bible to basically justify slavery, which slavery to them was a right. And as white people, you have rights. You have rights to keep blacks from voting. You create poll taxes. You have rights to keep them from any, of the land privileges and the country privileges of owning a home in certain neighborhoods. You can stop them from going to school with your kids and stop them from sitting on certain places of the buses and stuff. So you mean to tell me all of this was just the slave master privileges? No, these were white privileges of white people, so that black people couldn't have, places to eat, places to sit, places to go to school and live and raise their kids and their family. Those weren't black privileges, those were white privileges. And so that's the reason why it does exist. So anybody on here talking all this crap about there's no white privileges, that's bullshit. There are white privileges. They still exist even today. Yeah. You've got black people who will even state, well, I'm looking for a white woman with a black girl ass, and I'm looking for, her to look like she's part Latino, but she has to be white, white, because she can, I can take her here and she's a trophy wife and all that. There's certain privileges to certain things. Okay. And people have basically stated it in some of the things they're looking for, even in where they want to live, who they want to be around, what kind of money they want to get. Black folks, some black people don't even trust other black people. They'd rather get their money and their business through white folks. And most of the white people control things and control the media, and control stuff. That's the reason why when black people voice opinions on these websites and these places, your channel is either shut down or it's unmonetized or demonetized, however you want to put it. And then if white people post guns, post threats, post what they want to do to people, and that's left unchecked, the hell there isn't white privilege. There's white privilege. If this boy could go this long and do all that shit that he did at that school, the Vegas shooter, he goes in. You mean to tell me there ain't no white privilege? That's bullshit. Black people can't even get their foot in the door good without getting checked down, pat down. So that is a bunch of bullshit. Anybody tells you some shit like that, they're crazy. They're drugged out, they're getting paid, they're an agent. They're somebody, they just saying that shit, some feel-good shit to kiss some white people's ass. That's basically what it is. And so here you even see that they use the Bible. These motherfuckers use the Bible to justify why they enslaved Africans. Anytime you got people who use the Bible and you want to believe in that shit, and then you have black people saying, I just throw that shit out. I just throw that out. I don't believe that. I just believe in the good stuff. The good stuff, there ain't no good shit about that. Look at this. How Christian slaveholders, just the title of it, use the Bible to justify why they enslaved people. Okay, so this article is talking about it right here. It's saying how Christian slaveholders use the Bible to justify slavery, to justify their evil. Don't they still do that in the judicial system? When you go to court, they use their own laws to justify why they kill black boys. That's why we have all the shootings. You mean to tell me there ain't no white privilege? And we've got, here it is, a kid holding a bag of Skittles and he's got a hoodie on, but because he's overpowers the dude, the guy, he shoots him and he's a murderer, but he walks. He makes the excuse that, he thought somebody was doing something or he was the one being, attacked. The other kid, he's the aggressor, but he's upholding the law. Police officer on tape, on the video, everybody heard it. He said, are you waiting for us to intervene? Don't go and follow the boy. He still follows him and then kills him dead. He gets to walk. And then he boasts about what he does all over social media and nobody says anything. He goes places and basically in the people in his family, he gives them hell. Zimmerman, you know who I'm talking about. So like, this right here, Christian slaveholders use the Bible. It tells you in plain, there's so much stuff out there. There's no way that you can't see this. There ain't no gray area around this. This is bullshit. And then the white people saying there's no there's no white privilege. There is white privileges. Everybody has privileges of some type. And I had mentioned that. I was going to mention that before. Black people have a privilege when they're amongst other black people. Hispanic people have their privileges when they're amongst other Hispanic people. And white people, you have your privileges too. So there is a white privilege. But your white privilege is killing y'all. It's killing y'all. So during the period of American slavery, how did slaveholders manage to balance their religious beliefs with the cruel facts that the peculiar institution, which is slavery? And so it goes on to talk about this book by Noel Reyes. It's that new book they call The Great Stain, which uses the firsthand accounts to tell the story of slavery in America. For some of them, that is rationalization was right there in the Bible. So they use that as the tool. That's why I said they used the Bible as a weapon. And the Bible still used it as a weapon. We've seen that. Even black people have used it as a weapon. A weapon against gays and lesbians. We'll use the Bible to be Hispanics are a weapon against black folks. Blacks are cursed. It says it in the Bible. That's what they said. That's what they, as in slaveholders, used the Bible to do. So out of more than 750,000 words in the Bible, Christian slaveholders, and if asked, most slaveholders will let you know and define themselves as Christians. They had two favorite texts, one of them beginning with the Old Testament and the other at the end of the New Testament. Okay, so it's in Roman numerals. So I was trying to find it earlier. It's in Genesis, and they use it. And they even put the scripture in there. It says, "And sons of Noah that went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. And these are the three sons of Noah. And of them was the whole world overspread." And so it goes on and on and on. It talks about the scripture. And basically it tells you how they had used these scriptures to justify that a particular group of people were cursed. So it says here, it goes on, it says, despite the problems of this story, what was so terrible about seeing Noah drunk? Okay, these are the questions. Why cursed Canaan rather than Ham? Okay, how long was the servitude to last? Okay, it justifies why people are servants and why one is over the other and rules over the other. Okay, surely Ham would have been the same color as his brother, but they used that to say that one was cursed and all of a sudden he's this color, black. It eventually became the foundational text for those who wanted to justify slavery on a biblical grounds. And it's boiled down popular version known as the Curse of Ham. So if you read about that, and some people already know. So Canaan was dropped from the story and Ham was made black. And as his descendants were made Africans. The other favorite, Apostle Paul's epistle to the Ephesians, okay? So it's also in Roman numerals, and so it has the V1. So I'm not a Roman numeral reader, but when I was looking for it, it got lost. So I'll just leave it. I think it's like chapters 6, 5, and 7. Servants to be obedient to them are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of your heart, as unto Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bound or free. So Paul repeated himself almost word for word in the 3rd chapter of the epistle of the Colossians. Okay, so the rest of the Old Testament was among often minded by proving that slavery was common among the Israelites. So basically, it's a lot of scripture that was used to pretty much justify and back the whole a big churchgoer. That's, I'll be honest with you, I'm not, I know about it, all about the scriptures, all about church, all about, religious stuff. Trust me, I had family members that was deep in it. But no matter what they say and do, I don't like this stuff, because it's the very premises of what this country was built on is hatred and deceitfulness and a bunch of lies and people who don't tell the truth, and basically use this to get over on other people and to win folks over in a bad way. So the New Testament, it says it was largely ignored, except in a negative sense of pointing out that nowhere did Jesus condemn slavery, although the story of Philemon, the runaway who was St. Paul, returned to his master, was often quoted. So, that tells you right there, it was also generally accepted that the Latin word servus usually is translated to a servant, which is servitude. It really meant slave. Okay. So even apparent abusers, when looked at the red light, no, the red light, at it added in the right light, it worked out for the best. And in the words of Bishop William Meade of Virginia, so suppose, for example, that you have been punished for something that you did not do. It is not possible that you may have done some other bad thing which was never discovered, and that the Almighty God who saw you doing it would not let you escape without punishment one time or another. And you not in such cases are a case to give glory to him. So it says to be thankful that he would rather punish you in this life for the wickedness than destroy your souls for in it the next life. And so the other thing that I have a problem with is, if you can't treat me, I'm kind of pulling out of this. If you can't treat me right here, if I can't have a nice home for my family, good education, be treated equal, why do I have to wait for it when I die? You know, what joy do I get out of that? That I never could understand why people wanted to accept that. So that's my opinion right there. So, but suppose that even this was not the case, a case hardly to be imagined, and that you have by no means, known or unknown, deserved the correction you suffered. There is this great comfort in it, and that you bear it patiently and leave your cause in the hands of God. See, this is where I'm coming from. It's like, why would you wait for the afterlife, which you're going to be dead? You're not going to be able to enjoy anything, the joys of life, of living. And, one person is better than you, so they get to enjoy their lives. And then when they die, they die. And then their kids inherit the joys that your kids won't even inherit, because they inherit all of the struggle and all of the trauma and all the unjoys of servitude, slavery, and what is passed on from that legacy, and the Jim Crow and all that era. And so your kids still are left behind. They may not be in chains, they may not be slaves, but they're still treated badly. And still, now they got people who dress things up. They look at things, they word things in applications so they can exclude your child from ever having opportunities that other kids readily have access to. And so that's basically what it is. Yeah, white privilege does exist, and it's killing. And now it has backfired with this incident with this Nikolas Cruz. He is one example of why your privileges have backfired. You have been going on for many, many decades, proving why it's justified to be evil. That right there, how Christians, you so-called white Christians, elites, people with money and all that, and those without money. There's some white people who don't have any money who are racist, and they just can't see it. You use your white privilege as a weapon, but now it is turning on you. And it is turning on you through this type of stuff. And you've indoctrinated the kids to use those same tools, and now they're turning their tools that you've given them and turning it back on you. And it's going to happen again. I don't care how many gun laws, how many strict laws you have, there's a criminal underworld. This is going to turn back on you again. We're going to see more stories like this. You watch and see. More stories like this from the same people who have used this all their lives. They know that they can walk in and get a gun. They don't have any criminal past. Or even if they do, they look the color. They're white. We trust them. They're going to be able to have access to these weapons and turn the very weapons that you guys use all of your privilege to uphold in court and in laws and in government and pay for through lobbyists. You are upholding these privileges. These are white privileges. That's what they are. The NRA, the government, you run everything. You basically, all the laws, you can change them, you can bend them, you can break them. We can't do that. We don't have the power to do that. You do. And so this is what's killing y'all, and you can't see it. So, and I don't care. This is bullshit about there ain't no white privilege. There's a woman on here. She's got dreads. And she's on there talking about there ain't no white privilege, and she states her case. And so she's probably getting screwed by a white dude. You know, she lives in a trailer, she lives around a bunch of old, hick white people, and then just regular old white people. I've heard her talk before. White people love that stuff. It's ass kissing. That's what it is. Ass kissing. Lady, just tell them the truth. You're an ass kisser. You like kissing white ass. And so you like getting all those likes. So you post those videos up there to say that white privilege doesn't exist until somebody shoots you in the head, until somebody takes one of your people out. And then you'll realize, oh yeah, it always existed. I just said that. So I've seen the video she puts out there. She's an ass kisser. White privilege does exist. It does exist. There's certain privileges in different areas too. So I'm not just saying that white privilege is the only privilege out there. There's privileges of beautiful looking people who look good. They're able to get in relationships faster, maybe, get what they want. When you got a privilege of doing something, people that have privilege because they have money, there's many privileges out there. And you may not necessarily be white, but you're an elite. And so you may be able to buy things or do things and get yourself out of trouble. OJ, get yourself out of trouble that somebody else might not be able to do because they simply just don't have the ends. They don't have the money. So that's a privilege. And yeah, there is a white privilege. You're able to live in certain neighborhoods that maybe other people can't, go to certain schools that other people can't get into because you look white. You may not get in trouble and do a lot of time because the law is on your side because you got the right skin color. Yeah, they might not even look at your video posts, right, Nicholas Cruz? They won't look at your video posts of you with guns and you getting your AR-15 so you can blow up all the people that look like you, which you claim you hate Mexicans, you hate blacks, you hate gays, whatever. But the people you turn the gun on are people that look like you. Why? Because you live in a white neighborhood around white people, mostly. And so your privilege is killing your own folks. And so you killed a bunch of people that look a lot like you, which they, Bill O'Reilly's and all these people that up listen to all these other people out there. Oh, well, it's the blacks that are killing whites. Blacks are killing whites. We don't even live in those neighborhoods. And you might find some of us that live in there if we can afford it. And I'm just being real. And so they don't want to hear this. White people, oh, there ain't no white privilege. There's no white privilege. But as soon as somebody gets in trouble at the workplace and something is missing, who do they look at? Let's find the black person. Maybe he stole it. Everybody turns and looks at you, and they don't look at the white people. There might have been a white thief up in there. Somebody that's white might have stolen it. He can get away with it because you won't look at him ever. So this is the kind of stuff they don't want to hear that. They just want you to feel sorry for them. Everything is mental illness. You notice that when it's white people, when it's black people killing, he's violent. He's a gangbanger. He's a black supremacist and stuff like that. I'm not saying that those people don't exist. I'm just saying that you guys don't open your eyes about the people that exist in your culture and what they get away with and what you allow them to get away with. That's why we have the opioid crisis, because you think that black people don't need medication, that they don't hurt. So you just prescribe them a little bit, which thank you for that. You've helped us escape the battle of the opioid crisis. You basically have, because you give opioids to white people and drug them up, and now they're a bunch of drug addicts and they're killing each other because they're taking painkillers too much, and now they become a bunch of drug addicts. So this is where you get this. It just basically your privilege is killing y'all. Now you got the white women. They can't wait to sleep with black men. And so they basically, your race is dwindling because y'all white women like sleeping with black dudes, and you basically the ones that you're with are probably ones that they don't even care. They see you as a piece of meat, and then you just reveling in it, you know. And you can't wait to get with these women, and you find out that these women that you're sleeping with, they also don't really like you. They just want what you got, you know, for the time being until they get tired of you. And then you see how they do. Take you to court in a minute because they know the law is on their side. The law's on their side. Tiger Woods, you know that, right? The law is on the white woman's side. And then you know what's going to happen? She's going to get all your money. All your money. And they're going to protect her, not you. That's what's going to happen. And we've seen this. We've seen these stories. They're going to protect her because she's white, and they didn't want you with her anyway. And white men don't like it when they see white women with black men. They don't like it. Now, just the same as the other way around. So, you have certain privileges. So don't even go there. So anyway, if you want to know what these articles are, this article I already went over this. What to know about alleged Florida school shooter Nicholas Cruz, which he turns up to be Jewish and he's white. He isn't Hispanic like you white people think. You just try to pad Hispanics onto your team. They're not white like you people claim to be, the ones who want to be white. Okay, so how Christian slaveholders use the Bible to justify slavery. It's all there. I think I had emailed this article to myself. It's a lengthy article. I read most of it, and it talks about the scriptures and how they use scriptures to basically justify why they enslave African peoples, why they pretty much put out laws, why black people should revel and, don't worry about not having things, and in the afterlife you will have things. And so that is the reason why. That's the reason why you have the things you have going on right now today. So if you really do look at these stories and you start comparing the two, now somebody will have another spin on this. They'll have another spin on it. And they'll say, oh, that's not true. There's no white privilege. Okay, but guess what? Jeffrey Dahmer, all those years, and it took all that time before they caught him. Charles Manson, cult. He was talking about creating a race war. And look what happened with his situation. He was left untouched. Ted Bundy, he was able to kill all those people, and nobody even knew. He even represented himself in court. He knew the law. He knew the law. He represented himself in court, for a time. And he had a joy of going over the killing incident because he got a rise out of that. You have other people in the past who they've been, pretty much glorified for the stuff that they've committed against people of their own kind. But you don't hear nobody talking about that stuff no more. Most of the rise and most of the attractions that you go to during Halloween time, they revel in that. Oh, wow. John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer. When you go to like the theme parks and they have the horror stuff and everybody stands in line, who do they have as the scary people that come out? Jeffrey Dahmer and all the killers and stuff. And all those stories were stories that really happened. Real life story killers that were white. And during the time was nothing but serial killers that were white. And now glorified it, and everybody gets a rise out of it. Oh, scary. Let's pay a lot of money for this amusement park for scary. And here you hear these people butchered up people. They ate people, stored their heads in the refrigerator and body parts and stuff like that. And people that get a joy and they get a rise out of that. But you don't hear any of that happen with black people. As soon as a black person even fixes their mouth to say anything violent, you are in handcuffs. They standing at your door waiting. They don't even have to look at your license plate. They already got your face and your picture, your social security number. They've been watching you since you even started talking about black this, black that. They FBI watching, you know. But if you're white, ain't nobody gonna say nothing. They just look at it. He ain't gonna do nothing. Then you have these stories. And everybody's now talking about, let's have stricter gun laws. Stricter gun laws is not going to do nothing. How many times have they been over this stuff over and over again? Stricter gun laws, that's all it's going to do. It's a strict gun law. What criminal is going to buy a gun in one of these shops in the first place when there's a black market for it? Everywhere you go, you can find a gun if you want to. If you're bad enough, you can find it. There are people that know people that are underground that do, that's all they do. And you know what? Anytime the government can uphold the NRA and take money, and they talk about, well, we're not going to take money from this organization. That's bullshit. There's going to be unaccounted for money that's going to come filtering in, and guess who is going to be from the NRA? Oh, and then they call the guy that's in charge of the CEO of the NRA and try to argue with him. He knows they're not going to shut him down. He's been around for I don't know how long. Probably before all of us were in diapers. And so they're not going to shut those people down. Those people are not going to be closed down. Stricter gun laws. Now gun sales are going to rise now because they're talking about it. They're going to rise for the simple purpose is that people are in fear now that you're going to take their rights away from actually owning a gun. So now you just created a higher market plan for the NRA and all these people that distribute guns. Now the market is booming because the topic is about guns. Thank you, Nicholas Cruz and all of you other ones who are like him. You have started a war, basically. You started a war in politics over this gun issue. And the militias, you notice how they wanted to back out of this real quick? Because that's all they about is guns. It's nothing but guns. Like I said before, in the South, there were gun commercials that would come on just like how out here when you in California, you see the soap commercials and the food commercials. There were gun commercials that would come on and it wasn't none. You just see guns and you know, people shooting. And that's the thing to do. And they always use hunting as they premises. What are you hunting? That's the question. What are you hunting? See, they won't. That's open-ended right there. They leave that open. This is the South we're talking about. Okay, we know what they're hunting, black folks, right? You get out there in them fields and there ain't no lights out there. And you're walking by yourself, and it's easy for somebody to say, I thought I saw a deer or a bear. And bears are black. So, I mean, just go figure. And this is a woman, like I said, there's this woman on here, and there's some other people on here who kiss the butts of people because they like getting all those likes and they like all that attention and all that bullshit. Oh, you know, she has dreads and oh, there's no white privilege. There's privileges of all kinds, sweetheart. If you go in the neighborhood and there's a bunch of around in the hood and there's a lot of black people, you got your black card. We call that's the black privilege. If you got a lot of money, you're able to go places somebody that doesn't have a lot of money. You got your economic privilege. And if you're a nice, attractive looking individual, so you know everybody wants you, you got your privilege of beauty and looks and debonair or whatever. Okay, and so white people, you got your privilege too. You got privileges because you know that y'all been running shit for I don't know how long. So you can go in places, you can move in neighborhoods, you can go to nice schools. You might have inherited money that you know you didn't work for that shit. Somebody, blood, sweat, and tears, somebody did some really mean shit to somebody in the past, and now you got some money from that mean asshole aunt or that mean grandpa that was a slave master or participated in it or benefited from it somehow, and it was passed down. Now you got it. And so you able to live in nice homes and get into nice schools. And then, and then you was complaining, talking about, well, I don't like affirmative action, because affirmative action is privileges to people who are poor, right? So privileges exist. They exist. They exist on all levels. And it depends who should get it and who shouldn't. The haves and the have-nots. So white people like benefiting from their privileges and having their privileges, but they don't like it when the tables are turned and their privileges is now backfiring on them. But we don't like it when Black folks have privileges to get in schools from affirmative action. We don't like it when Black people can get jobs and we can't find a job. They have to employ Black folks. So they call us the token Black folks. That's our privilege because we got a little bit of schooling. She went to college. She got a little bit of schooling. So that's as far as our privilege get us. But that doesn't mean that we're going to get paid the same way as you. That doesn't mean we're going to live in the same neighborhoods as you. That does not mean that we'll be able to get in that house like some of you now. Hipsters are coming in the neighborhoods and regentrifying stuff, and you're able to get into homes and other regular people can't afford because you got your privilege, because your privilege is in your wallet. And your color might help, but nowadays we moving out of this just the white privilege thing, but we kind of still have it there lingering because that's been the oldest privilege around. But now we're getting into economic privilege of having money for the haves and the have-nots. That's why we got all this homelessness. People who, it doesn't matter what color you are, you're on the street because you don't have enough economic privilege. That's what's going on. You don't got no economic privilege. So that's the reason why you on the street living in tents. Now they want to do something about it because it's an eyesore to those that want to make their buildings and move all of the people that got money in there because they got economic privilege. See, that's what's going on. So that's the reason why we have the problems that we have right now. And so you can't tell me that there is no such thing as a white privilege, because there are white privileges. If there's privileges of other kinds, there's definitely some, God damn it, there's some white privilege. Okay? And I'm out.